Right, I think that's live. I'm assuming it is. Right, let's go. So I started early just because it's just me sitting around here waiting for past, so I might as well start. So first of all, I assume you watch my videos, and those of you who are watching now. So I don't let bad comments get to me, but what I think sometimes is a problem is a communication problem. I think sometimes when people see me post a video, and of course it's YouTube, so you have to do a bit clickbaity style thing. So the video I made yesterday was about the concept that if financial markets are crashing, like as we see, let's just have a quick look. So we've got the Nasdaq crashing, a bit of a bounce at the last minute. That often happens before weekly closes, but generally speaking, we've broken down beneath all moving averages basically. And actually, if you look at the weekly, we managed to just climb back up against the 20 weekly. So if traditional markets crash like they did here in March, what happens to everything? It all crashes, right? So it's not a warning. It's a very decent theory that I have that everyone would be able to understand based on historical price action of both assets, and the Dixie increasing in value as well. We'll get the Dixie up as well. We might as well, and so it's not that I'm predicting anything or that I favour any particular outcome. It's just something to be aware of. So sometimes we can all look at the Bitcoin chart and go, well, this chart looks good. I'll tell you what, this is a better example. We can look at altcoin charts, and we do it all the time. We look at altcoin charts and we go, wow, that looks great. This is a perfect setup. And then in the corner of our eye, we look at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes, no, I'm not feeling it today, and then crashes or dumps. It would 99% of the time, it would void the setup that you have. That was so perfect on that altcoin chart, because altcoins, they follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin dictates the health of the market, and more often than not, if Bitcoin decides to take a dump, the entire market takes a dump. And again, there's always outliers and stuff, and so Bitcoin is also at the mercy of other charts bigger than itself. We think of Bitcoin as the big daddy, which it is in cryptocurrency, but it's not the big daddy in the world. The big daddy is, I suppose, what we think about really is the dollar, the Dixie chart. This is the big daddy. Cash is king. That's what they say. And there's a reason for it, because this will dictate the rest of the market's health, and this will transfer to everything: stocks, commodities, cryptocurrency. Generally speaking, at the moment, anyway, this is how it's been working. So it's been working like this for a long time. And so we have to always think about these things as well. Now, normally we see a direction, and especially with something like this, we see a direction. We know that what's taking place, quantitative easing, the annihilation of the dollar. It's a bearish chart. We're okay with it, and then after a while we kind of forget about it. We take it for granted that the dollar's dying. But it can't go to zero, and this is always the problem when you short things. You're limited to the amount that you can get in a short, whereas if you're long, the sky's the limit. So the dollar cannot go down to zero. It just can't, and it wouldn't. It can go down, and it can continue to go down, but it can't go down forever. And so there's always going to be a place that it will bounce at, and then that bounce will correspond to the things that are pegged to it, like everything that we're seeing. And so this was the idea. This is what I was trying to get across yesterday. And I suppose for me it's like a communication problem. The other person might not really understand what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that the economy is going to collapse and Bitcoin is going to zero. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, look, there's something we need to be aware of, and because of that, we have to take this chart here, this Bitcoin chart, with a pinch of salt. It's not the greatest looking chart in the world at the moment anyway, although it's definitely better than the Nasdaq and gold and things like that. So this is what I was trying to say. So I'm not a perma bear, a mega bear. I'm not super bearish. I'm not trying to forecast doom and gloom or anything like that. But I was just trying to put across the point that that stocks have taken a significant beating, more than I actually thought. Because again, I don't often look at these sort of things anymore. And it struck me actually when I saw it last week. It's the first time I'd really looked at it in a while actually, and I was surprised to see it. And I was like, oh my god. because we all know, well, I know what this would mean if we close a weekly below the 20 weekly. We know what that means for Bitcoin. It's the same for everything. Technical analysis transfers to everything. It's the same. It's the same theory. It's the same. It's exactly the same. So if we did close below here, and then that, we were down there for several weeks, then that would become a bear market. Anyway, like I say, the good news is that from what I understand, the stimulus check has been signed, and there should be a fresh injection of free money into the economy of America. I know there is in the UK as well. So yeah, that should basically do it and keep this. You better hope that it keeps this up. And the worst thing about this is that it will come down. The bigger the bubble, the bigger the pop. So that's the worst thing about it. I mean, for us, it's good. In theory, it's good because it should allow the party to continue a little bit longer. There is now an after party after the after party, but it can't go on forever. So it's good. Like I say, it is a good thing. We'll have to see how markets react on Monday. Crypto gets to, I suppose, get to the party early, perhaps. Maybe that's why we're seeing small moves right now. But traditional markets are closed, so they're not going to react to that news until Monday. And you better hope that they react well to it, because if they don't, and there's a stimulus package cashed out, out there now, close to 2 trillion, and if the markets don't react to that, anyway. Right, so that is out there now. So, like I say, I'm not a perma bear. I just wanted to shine a different light onto the situation that we should all be aware of. And now, hopefully, with this stimulus package, it will have the desired effect on traditional markets and the dollar. And the dollar, I would expect to come back down again. But again, the dollar's a different story altogether. I'm not going to bore you to death with it, but I've shown this on my videos, and then we'll go into some crypto, I promise. So this is the monthly chart, and I said this before we broke down from here. I said, look, last time we came down to the 200 exponential moving average on the monthly, we bounced. Also, this was Bitcoin's $20,000 all-time high. So I was saying that back then. I said, look. We bounced from this area, and basically Bitcoin died from this area. So even though the market cycle for Bitcoin is got another 11 months left in it, perhaps, of bull market that would be, then we're not really expecting an enormous crash. But if we do get a bounce from around here and it ends up being similar to it was before, then it wouldn't be too good for Bitcoin. It was definitely slow its gains, definitely, if not push it into a bear market. But given the economic situation and the reason that the dollar has fallen like this time, I'm not really expecting quite the same reaction. These, what happened there? These supports and resistances should still hold up. But if the dollar does, for whatever reason, continue to push up, then we will feel that. We'll feel that across the board, traditional markets and Bitcoin. We will. But Bitcoin still has its market cycle, which is, time is still on our side when it comes to all of this, because even though market cycles do fail, gold being a particularly good example of that right now. Gold's market cycle has a failed cycle. It's breaking down, which is a bit concerning. Bitcoin is still okay for the moment anyway. So like I say, I'm not here to spread fear and doom and gloom, and the stimulus package has been signed, so this should then, by Monday, I would expect to see the dollar come down a little bit, probably not an enormous amount, but a little bit. We are catching a decent bounce here, and perhaps maybe even going bullish on it, but it'll be a slow move if it does continue to go up, and there'll be plenty of areas of rejection, and in those areas of rejection, so long as Bitcoin is holding strong throughout its at the moment it's very strong. This is not like that. For instance, this is weekly, this is the Bitcoin weekly, so this is very different to stocks, and gold is a lot worse than that. Gold is just falling off a cliff. So Bitcoin, in the face of all of this, has held up very well. So if we get a rejection of the Dixie, or a downtrend again, or even just a significant rejection, or basically a massive pullback because of the stimulus check, then Bitcoin will rally again, and alts will also rally with it. Right, how long was that going on for? That was one hell of a monologue, wasn't it? Hang on a minute, is this live stream? Is this? I think I've made this public, haven't I? Oh my god, this is supposed to be for Patreon users only, guys. Well, that's a mistake. I'll have to just change that quickly. But if you're in here, you're in here, and fair play to you. You've managed to get a free live stream. This is normally just for Patreon users, but I was thinking that's a good turnout. Anyway, let's go through this. And sorry to the actual Patreon users. We've got some gate crashes tonight. Right, so let's have a look at some of these requests. So Quantum, I've got this one up already. Quantum to me looks very much like it's turning right back up. And actually, before I do this and before I go into Quantum, I'm just going to show you something which should offer a bit more context into the way I'm feeling right now. And I touched on it on my video today, and this is kind of how I'm seeing the cryptocurrency world right now. So we'll start with Bitcoin dominance just very briefly. Right, so we're all aware that Bitcoin dominance has had the biggest downtrend maybe in its history prior to the last bull market finish, right, which was where it collapsed, all the way down here. That's because there was very little altcoins back in the day, and then when altcoins came into the market, they were just going absolutely bonkers and bananas, and basically destroyed the dominance chart. But since then, reality set in. This is like the dot-com bubble in a way. Anything that was a blockchain basically just got money thrown at it. Now it's very much different. It's a lot more focused, and we've got altcoins that do something, not like my token, which is due to be released soon, I promise, the Jammer token. Not like that, which is a complete obsolete, random, zero worth, just for a joke coin. I mean, we've got things like all the blockchains and cryptocurrencies that we follow all the time, so it's a lot more focused, and they are all gaining in market cap significantly. So to see dominance crash down to these levels, in my opinion, is quite unlikely, at least for several years. But what we're seeing on this chart is a bearish chart, and we are testing once again this trend line. We tested it so many times, and normally I would say, look, it's time to hedge back into Bitcoin. The dominance chart, blah blah blah. Hedge into your Bitcoin here, because I think we're going to catch a bounce, and that's worked for us several times. But we've failed to really rally, and it actually does look like it's curling over. And if we break down below here, or we start another downtrend below this line here, then the altcoin party begins again. Alt season, basically, another alt season. This has been an amazing alt season already. It's cooled off, and if we get this, we'll get another alt season, a significant one, and that would also work with the way that Bitcoin looks like it's redistributed on the daily. So Bitcoin holding up okay in this downtrend, and we have this MACD facing down like this. It's not fast, it's not strong, it's not diverging, it's just slow and steady away, and will eventually turn back up, similar to the way that the last alt season looked. We had a cross at a high level and a redistribution. So Bitcoin went down nice and slowly, consolidating, redistributing its wealth. Basically, a lot of money was made up here, and then it went into the alts, which were extremely oversold, and they went up massively, and that's basically what happened. So if we look at this is the 10th of January, and if we look at this around about here, this was the 10th of January. So this is what I mean. The top was in for Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin dominance went down as alts rallied significantly, massively, and that'll happen again if this breaks down from this level here. And the thing that makes me think that that's even more likely is when we look at the Ethereum chart. So Ethereum has got the biggest market cap of all the altcoins, right? We know that. It's actually really big. It's massive, actually. By far the biggest of all the others. By far. So whatever Ethereum decides it wants to do, it's going to be good for the Bitcoin dominance chart, as in like it'll be good for its demise, yeah. If we have a look at this trend line here, forming an uptrend since 2020, January 2020, so just over a year now, we've been going on this trend line, up, down, back to support, a bit of a weird couple of weeks here, but essentially recovered from there, big back dump back down again, and a bounce here. Also, we've got a conversion baseline cross here above the cloud, which is a bullish weekly situation for Ethereum. So that suggests that, you know, Ethereum to Bitcoin is actually turning up bullish again. We're looking to create another one of these little mountains, I suppose. This is a weekly chart, so let's have a look at some of how these weeklies have played out. So from the top to the bottom, that was a 42-day thing, so just over a month. This one was 21 days, a couple of weeks, really, 3 weeks. This one was a big one, so it was at its top, that was another 42 days, and the last one that's just taken place here, from here to here, that was 28 days. So these rallies take, give or take, about a month, right? And we might be looking at the start of one of those now, and we would expect that, given the way that the Ethereum looks here and its history, it does these little rallies, and they last about a month, roughly speaking. So if this is the start of one of those, it will affect the Bitcoin dominance chart, especially if Bitcoin is consolidating again, which it looks like it is. And if Ethereum decides to rally against Bitcoin, then the dominance chart will go down. Then we will break this area here. We will come down to areas like 58% dominant, maybe 57% dominance. You could only hope that we go down lower than that. We do have a support trend line down here. If we break down from there, this would be amazing. But yeah, step by step, let's have a look at these things. And we've also got a death cross here on the daily. This is kind of playing out already, and it's diverging, so it's getting stronger. The chart here does look bearish. So there's a lot of good things aligning here right now to suggest that perhaps altcoins are the better option right now. So first of all, we've got the stimulus check, which is hopefully going to impact the Dixie and stocks by Monday. We've got Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, which looks like it's going to begin a rally on the weekly, which should, in previous history, looks as though it should last between 3 to 5 weeks worth of rally, sustained, slow and steady. And then we've got this dominance chart, which is essentially bearish. So all that in mind, right, it's just a theory. I'm not making any calls. I don't run signal groups or anything like that. It's just the way I choose to interpret the chart. That's all out there. I've explained my situation, why I've come to this conclusion, that we can now view altcoins as better options to Bitcoin. The only problem is, like I said at the very, very beginning of all of this, we can have the best altcoin set up, and if Bitcoin decides to do something else, it's void until further notice. So again, we'll put all that out there, but given the stimulus and what we're expecting to take place on Monday when traditional markets open and react to that news, I think things are actually okay for the moment. So that's the opening monologue. It's taken 15 minutes, so everything that I say has to be viewed upon with the lens of everything that I've just said, that we're under the assumption that this news will react negatively to the dollar, positively to stocks, commodities and crypto, and that Ethereum is beginning a rally against Bitcoin, therefore creating the start of perhaps a new alt season, which may not begin immediately, but could continue over the next 3 to 5 weeks. Right, so I've said it, it's all out there, you've got the information now. Let's have a look at some of these charts, shall we? So quantum, alright, so had a hell of a correction here, didn't it? So from the top down to the bottom, 53%, and since then we have certainly picked up these last couple of days, reaching towards the top of the Bollinger Band here, but regaining the center of the Bollinger Band, which is nice. All these moving averages here still below the center of the Bollinger Band, so to expect this to rally up straight away, you know, obviously it could happen. It happened this time. This was a messy area down here, messy area, with no real insight as to why this candle would be created over a period of 2 days, but historically it did do something like that over here. So it likes to do these kind of moves. It doesn't really give you any particular edge before these moves take place, so why not do it again? It might do it just because that's how it has behaved these last few times. But you know, given the way that the moving averages are, they're all in one place, so it doesn't give it any potentially decent, you know, insight as to if it will do it right now. But it looks positive. We've got the MACD turning up. We've got money pouring back into it, even though the volume is still reasonably low. The last 3 days, it's picked up dramatically. So this one could be looking to do, and is probably already doing it, one of these silly moves. But at the same time, these silly moves are sold off very quickly. What's the volume on this thing? It's not too bad actually. It's not too bad. So I would be relatively optimistic about the way that this is going to behave. I do like the look of it. It's shaping up quite nicely. Maybe on the first pass will not reach the previous high of the candle bodies, around about 16 or 1700 sats. But this green cloud zone here does offer us more opportunity. So the fact that we've gone green here means that it's got more freedom than it would have when it was back down here when it was red. So this is how it behaved in the red. You would expect it to behave better in the green. So I like it actually. I do quite like it. However, the move over the last couple of days is currently a 28% move. So, buying towards this zone here, especially when we've got the 200 exponential here, which is going to be a resistance zone in its own right. We've also got the Bollinger Band there, which should also offer resistance. It does look good. If you're holding it, fair play to you. I think it's going to go. But if you were to be buying it here, you'd be adding a lot of risk to reward, because I don't see it going too high or at this point already. But I think it probably will work out all right in the end. So that's Quantum to Bitcoin. I do like it, and FTT. Let's have a look at that. So I'm going to try and whiz through a lot of these comments because I unfortunately added this out to the general population. So there might be a lot more comments on here from people who aren't Patreon users. So I'm really sorry about that, guys. I'm really sorry. So I'm going to try and whiz through everybody's because I know people get a bit annoyed when I don't reach their questions, and I'll stop rambling and I'll get back to business. So this is a really bullish chart, very bullish indeed. Loving it, in fact. This is a great one. So what we've got here, you've got golden cross over here, diverging nicely. In fact, it's not even been bothered or phased by any of this downside to it. A conversion baseline took place beneath the cloud, so this itchy cloud here, even though it's a good one, it's not perfect. So we can treat it for what it's worth. I mean, it's good and it's a good signal, but on the back of the chart alone, it's pretty good. It looks to me like it's ramping up to make a move. Actually, we've not got any previous price action on this one, so this could end up being a blue sky breakout. Clearly got some resistance around where we are at right now. Give or take 6,200 sats. So breaking above 6,200 sats, I would expect to see a nice move from that one. Let's go and look at the weekly, see if that offers anything. Yeah, this is alright actually. So we've got conversion baseline cross above the cloud. Yeah, so this looks like it does want to continue in the long term. So given what I said about Ethereum and alt season perhaps taking place from now or soon, and lasting for between 3 to 5 weeks, this one probably will do pretty well in that one as well. So yeah, the weekly shows a nice signal on the weekly, which doesn't mean buy it now and expect the move to take place the second you press the buy button. But over the next few weeks, that should correspond to and play out on that weekly. And if it does, then this is going to go to blue sky breakout territory. I can't give you any indication as to where it'll be. At the end of that, you'll have to limit your risk and take profit as and when. I don't have a price target, but it looks good to me. Right, can you please look at SXP to BNB? Yeah, I'm very nervous with the BNB pairs right now. I don't know if this is something that you're looking at for bot trading. This is one of my favourite bots back in the day. I did love this. This was a great bot, but it's not been particularly good at the moment. So I mean, all BNB charts are going to look pretty nasty and not really going to give us any kind of edge, I'm afraid, because BNB has been so strong. It's wrecked these charts. Money flow index down here is way oversold. You don't normally see a money flow index so low like that. In fact, it's pretty rare that you ever do. Money flow indexes give you a much better exit point than they would do an entry point. So you could look at this as an entry point, because it's so low. But at the same time, it is BNB to SXP. So the trading pair in itself isn't it's not the most popular. There's no reason why it should be particularly popular. It's a strange chart to want to trade, unless of course you're doing it for bot pairing, which I could completely understand. So if we bear that in mind, if we look at this as potentially an obvious bottom, not obvious, not the right word, but a very low money flow index bottom, which I would understand because no one's going to want to. Everyone's going to want to have BNB against SXP when BNB was doing its thing. We've got the MACD turning up, but it's extremely low. I mean, look, we're in the 0 point here, so it would take an enormous amount of effort for SXP to push up against BNB with the MACD being down here. This could take a long period of time to essentially reaccumulate, which looks like what it's kind of trying to do at this level here. Oversold RSI, but not particularly oversold, but oversold all the same. But the chart overall is pretty nasty and bearish. We've not reclaimed the centre of the Bollinger Band. Let's go to the 4 hourly, see how that fares up. It's flat as a pancake, really. I've not got any particular opinion on this, and if you did want to bot trade this, it's not very volatile either. So let's just go down to a 1 hourly chart. Let's see the range. I mean, it is pretty flat. You'd be better off looking at the yeah, it's flat as a pancake. Hourly chart here has a golden cross. It's just an hourly chart. Yeah, to be honest with you, if you want to know about SXP, I'm sure someone will probably ask later, and we'll have a look at it versus Tether. That will give you more of an idea. I would be very cautious trading anything against BNB at this moment in time, just because BNB. Well, we'll have a look at the BNB chart, I'm sure. But the last time I checked it looked like it could rally again on the daily anyway, and a significant one at that. Right, could you elaborate how and when the stimulus would affect Bitcoin and alt price? How would it affect Nasdaq and crypto price? Well, I think I went into it at the beginning, but long story short, is the way that it would affect it is that it would affect the Dixie, the dollar. So the general idea in layman's terms is that the more money that gets printed out of thin air, handed out willy-nilly, devalues the dollar, because it undermines its value. Because the dollar's not pegged to anything, it is just paper basically. If you create more of that paper, there's more of it in supply, just like there would be if, like if we got 21 million bitcoins, let's just say for some reason another 21 million just got created out of thin air, it's going to devalue the price of it. It's suddenly doubled in its value. I mean, in its amount. It's not as scarce anymore, there's loads of it, it undermines its value. So by undermining the value of the Dixie and bringing the Dixie value down, as all these assets are valued in dollars, their true value, or their what's the right word, their speculated value remains the same, but the valuation against their pegged currency basically goes up, because that value is worth less. It's like what happened in Germany after the war, and they had to change their currency, didn't they, from the Deutschmark to the Reichsmark, because it got to the point where inflation was so high that it cost like 1 million Deutschmarks for an egg. That's basically the same kind of vibe in the most extreme way of putting it. What's going on with the market in general? I mean, the Nasdaq did well in this crisis because it's a tech sector. Generally wasn't affected, and actually in many ways it did go up in value because it deserved to go up. But also at the same time, the dollar was going down, which just accentuated its move. So that's what would happen to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is generally traded with Tether, which is just meant to be pegged to the dollar, which basically goes down in value, which means that this goes up in value in the face of things, because what it's pegged to and what it's traded against has gone down, which means that even though Bitcoin might have the same speculated value, it actually goes up in value by default, because its pegged currency is deflating. Hopefully that made sense. So yeah, that's how it would work. More money into the system, more circulating supply, just handed out, and devaluing the Dixie, and the Dixie will transfer that discrepancy onto anything that's pegged against it. Yeah. Like Forex, if you're looking to trade Forex, I don't do it much anymore, I hardly ever do it, but this might be a time to put something on, dollar euro, dollar pound. There'll be a big move in that. If the dollar goes down, the pound could basically stay still, but basically you'll have a good trade if you go long on the pound. Right, RSR. Hopefully this is all making sense to you guys. Sometimes I get lost in my own, and I feel like sometimes I speak a different language, and people might not quite get it. And it's not because anyone's not capable of understanding. It's my communication of what's going on. Right, so is it against Bitcoin you'd want me to say? I think a lot of the time we should be looking at it against Bitcoin right now, and it looks okay. It looks okay. It's a bit messy. It's reaccumulating around this area. Let's have a look on Tether. Just going a bit clearer, perhaps. Yeah, so it's not quite so messy on here. So yeah, it's good to go. It's above all major moving averages, and we're above the cloud here. And what would be really good is over the next few days, see this blue to this red. If we get this cross here, then that would be a conversion baseline cross. We'd be looking at that as a signal. Green cloud cross here, that'd be great. There's not a great deal of conviction in this MACD. But that's all right. There's plenty of time to turn up. We're above the 0 point in bullish territory, and technically still in an uptrend still here. So yeah, I quite like it. Can't ignore the fact that, and we'll see this a lot with a lot of these altcoins. Can't ignore the fact that it did dump down over over a week to the tune of 55%. So we can't ignore that. It's highly volatile, but I think we'll see a lot of that with these altcoins at the moment. Look, since climbing up from that death fall, we've reclaimed the centre of the Bollinger Band. We've retested the 10, we've tested the centre of the Bollinger Band and tested the 10 again. So it does look like it wants to try for another uptrend. Doesn't mean that it can't come down further. Look, the centre of the Bollinger Band is currently still facing down, which means that as this is still a resistance, it's going to take a few days for this to start to turn back up or at least go horizontal. So the resistance, the second layer of resistance other than the 10 exponential is still facing down, which means that if we do break down from this 10 exponential, which is the first start of an uptrend, or go up in like that, this is going to be more like this. So dips could get a little lower than you'd like if you were to enter into it, but I think it's starting an uptrend. And remember what I said at the beginning of this video, this stream, right? Everything that I said, that is my overall theory of the market. Okay, so I'm using that theory of the market to spin a positive light onto all these charts this time round, because there is fundamentally and technically with this chart here reasons to be bullish on alts versus Bitcoin and alts in general. So I am going to spin a positive light onto these onto a lot of these charts that we're seeing, because of what I said at the very beginning. All right, so just put all that into perspective. Hey up, buddy. Nice uploads today. Always nice to have a bit of insight. Can you have a look at AVAX? Yeah, let's have a look at that. A up. That's for all of my American user viewers and stuff like that. That's how people in the north of England say pretty much everything. They say hello, goodbye, oh my god. Is pretty much universal for pretty much anything you want it to be. Right. Interesting looking chart. Not really helped. It's not looking well. Let's have a look at some of the things here. Well, I mean, it was pretty impressive run. Let's face it, that's an impressive run. That was a 1,735% rally. Let's have a look at how that began. Back down here. So conversion baseline, divergences, and then it picked up momentum. Right. So what's happened here? And also, did the rally begin properly? So I just need to, because it's not a very old chart, I'm just going to have to see how it behaved last time it did this. Right, so we had 1, 2, 3, 4 tests of that green 50 exponential, which is the support that's held up right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All these moving averages are still facing down, which doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence about it. But if there was an opportunity to buy low on this one, it's pretty much right where we are at right now. If this breaks down, then yeah, I mean anything could happen. But this could potentially be the bottom of this one, just because that's where it launched from before. It's not touched that since it did this mega rally. And even though all the moving averages are basically facing down, we are respecting this green 50 exponential several times, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we've not really bounced from it with much conviction other than this one. Let's measure that out just for fun on this one, not the wick before. So it is a big move. So I suppose these are quite deceptive. They look like small candles, but they're not really. I suppose everybody's hoping for another one of these, aren't they? I can't guarantee you anything of the sort, but what I could say is that if there were to be an entry point, this might be your chance, because we've got the 50 exponential, this green one here, we've got the 50 moving average, which is here, and we're basically holding up on both of those. So if there's ever a support to go on, this is that support. It's not broken down below here. Even with this wick here, the lowest wick it came down to was the 50 moving average, pretty much touched that to a perfect, just perfectly really, and we poked down a little bit yesterday, and I suppose today it's what I would call squeaky bum time. This isn't for the faint-hearted, but if you wanted to try and buy a bottom, which is basically catching a knife that's falling very slowly, this could be it, and this would be an entry point, and then you would better hope that it forms an uptrend from here. Moving averages, like I say, are all facing down, and if they continue to face down and cross below these moving averages, then that would be negative divergence, and it would end up making the chart look bearish and maybe even play out bearish. But at the moment this is one hell of a consolidation. We'll just measure that out. 63% consolidation after that high. That's fair enough considering we rallied, what was it, 1,700%. So I don't mind the chart actually. If you wanted to try and catch a slow falling knife, that's what this would be. You'd be trying to catch a slow falling knife. Hope everything's okay. EWT, is that on Binance? I don't think it is. No, it's not on here. I can't tell you about that one, I'm afraid. But what I hear about this all the time is that it's basically something you buy on its fundamental use case. It's going to take over the energy sector. So, I'm not a fundamental analysis, but from what all I understand is that is one of those tokens that you buy on its fundamental value, and the chart alone should basically be neither here nor there when it comes to buying that token. But that's my understanding of it. Right, what we got next? Can you give your opinion on RVN? Thinking to get out of it, right? Okay. While this is loading up, I did have this. I had this almost. If I'd have held onto my position, it would have been a 10x by now. But it was so slow. I was expecting something to happen, but it took too long. And I just thought, screw it, I'm getting out of that position. Right, so this is one of those vibes here where this is clearly an end of trend with this conversion baseline cross here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bearish, right? Look how it's been held up. So the moving averages are catching up to the price action. The center of the Bollinger Band is catching up to price action, which is what you'd like to see after a giant consolidation like this. So we touched it here, great. We touched it here. Something must have happened yesterday. I suppose it did, didn't it? Really. So everything has broken just very briefly below their moving averages of support, but then it got sucked back into it, and again today we're still being held up from it. So this is another one of those ones where I'd say, technically, squeaky bum time. Do you want to catch a slow falling knife? If you do, then this might be one of those ones you could catch a slow falling knife. So just like that last chart that we looked at, a slow falling knife that can be caught gently, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But if there was an entry point that people have been waiting for anything, these are one of those entry points that is there for you, really. But again, nothing's in the bag, nothing's for certain. This is a nice slow burning, although it being redistribution style and diverging MACD. It's not aggressive. It's consistent with redistribution. So people taking profit, like what you're considering to do now, from what it sounds like. Do you want to be one of those people that takes profit? Do you want to take some profit, or do you want to stay in here because you've ridden it all the way down to the point where the center of the Bollinger Band catches up to the price action, which would suggest that this would be a decent support, the last place for a bull to want to be supported on before they start to think of getting out of the trade because they've waited too long. If you didn't get out of the trade in any of these areas, which I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, because who knows where it's going to go, and if you didn't take profit on any of these areas, then there's not really a great deal. If I was in this trade, I wouldn't be taking profit at this point here. I'd be like, well, I've ridden it out this far, it's being supported on this, this is still if you watch my videos on the Bollinger Bands and things, long story short, the simplest way to look at them, if you're in the upper band, you're more likely to stay in the upper band. If you're in the lower band, you're more likely to stay in the lower band by a ratio of 65% more likely to stay in the portion that you're in. So we are still in that portion. We're 65% more likely to stay in this portion of the Bollinger Band, and because we're right down at the center of it, doesn't mean that it's bearish. It means that this, if there's an entry point for a bull, this would be the place to buy, because we're still in the upper band. And look, you couldn't squeeze a Rizzler paper between that. This would be an entry point, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's as simple as that. I would personally, at this stage now, holding onto it for this period of time, I'd stay in it in anticipation for it to bounce from here, because the rules of Bollinger Bands suggest that you're 65% more likely to find a bounce here, and even if it isn't a bounce, it's still upwards facing, which means that even if we get mini bounces, the supports are going to get higher and higher and higher over time, provided we stay above it. So I wouldn't get too concerned, but it's always worth taking profit here and there. Do you know what I mean? It's always worth taking profit, especially when you get super mega pumps like that. Right. Can I have a look at Matic? Right. I can. I don't know what's going to happen to Matic, because it's turning into Polygon. Does that mean that there's going to be a token swap when it becomes Polygon? Is Matic going to completely cease to be taken off the market, and you're probably going to be issued with Polygon tokens? I don't know. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. If that's the case, then what I would probably expect when those things usually happen is that the day that it comes onto the market, if you've got your Polygon tokens, then it's probably going to explode in price and then dump. But as far as this chart is concerned, it still looks good to go. It still looks very good, in fact. The old Matic has been left behind. Look at this. Who would have thought that this is... We traded this on this channel for a year. I mean, that was a good trade. Did that one, we did this one, and we got out here as well, which we're very pleased about. Anyway, that's less of the bragging. This was always the dream, but unfortunately we lost confidence in it. So is it time to be confident in this chart? Well, yeah, the chart looks great. It looks brilliant. In fact, it looks amazing, and it's above most moving averages of any significance. So being above the 10 exponential, looks like we're being supported on there, having a bounce from there now. Looks quite good to me. Looks actually like, I mean, obviously this is very, very high MACD. I mean, look at that. So it's an extremely high MACD. So having a cross up at this level isn't the worst thing in the world. Maybe I would limit my exposure to this if I was in it now, because what we've got here is we've got high, we've got a lower high, and not so much a lower high, but almost like bearish divergence on the daily. We've also got bearish divergence on the money flow index, showing that even though the trend is going up, volume is actually leaving the asset, so it could end up with a sell-off, perhaps, maybe. Doesn't mean it's going to dump, but Matic has done that. It's done crazier stuff in the past. Look, you can look at it in two ways. You could look at it as in, alright, are we going to get one last final hoorah out of this? Are we going to get one last bounce from this? The moving averages suggest that is probably more likely than not, but momentum is running low on this one, as far as all these oscillators are concerned, suggesting that maybe this trend will run out of steam at some point soon. But the trend is your friend until the end of the trend. So we've got some warning signs on there to say that the trend may be slowing down, if not coming to an end soon. But right now, we are being respected and supported on these moving averages. I think there's still a little way to go on it, but I would be a little careful given the state of the money flow index, the MACD, and the RSI. Hey, bro. Oh, hi. What else should we look at? EOS to the moon. I think that's just a statement rather than a request, so that's fine. Take a look at Ethereum at the moment. Well, this is the overall vibe with Ethereum, so I've got no reason to dispute my original claims on this one, that it will, against Bitcoin, continue to rally over the next 3 to 5 weeks against Bitcoin. So whatever Bitcoin does, I would expect Ethereum to do better, and continue to make gains in its sats. So it's simple as that. There's no need to go any further than that. Hi Gemma, can you have a look at ZIL? Yeah, let's have a look at that. Okay, so bearish posturing still, unfortunately, on the on on the daily here. They're not particularly strong at the moment, but it is a good looking uptrend of a chart in general. So let's put everything into context. We have big moves up, we have giant consolidations down, big moves up, giant consolidations down. Bottom portion of the Bollinger Band suggests that until we break outside of it, we're not going to start that trend, but by the time we break outside of it, the rally could be in full steam. Let's have a look at some of these things. So a redistribution taking place here, oversold on this wick, but it could obviously go lower. Money flow is still coming out of here, so it's not immediately bullish. No, it's not immediately bullish, but there'll be a few things I'd want to see. I want to see a conversion baseline cross, which doesn't look like it would take a great deal of upwards movement for that to take place, and that would suggest a new trend form. So we might play out a bit more consolidation on this, but how long is that going to take to get to this cloud zone? Maybe some point next week we could be looking at some serious upside on this one. If my original, like my giant monologue that I gave at the beginning of this video, if that overall theory is correct, then this, yes, will probably begin a new uptrend at some point over the next few weeks. If that general vibe, that general theory that I had of the overall market is true, and so this would be one of those ones that does make a new uptrend and a new high. So these areas here, how much would that be from where we are right now? That would be a 30% move. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that would be fine. You would almost certainly get that, and probably then some. But the trend hasn't started yet, right? So there could easily be some pain. We've not reclaimed these moving averages as support. There's technically still resistance. That's resistance. That's resistance. The next level of support is the green 50, all the way down here at 10 cents, just above 10 cents. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you if you want to get involved in this one now. If you want to get a really good entry point, you might not get it, but if you really wanted a really good one, you'd wait for it to come down towards the 50 exponential. But given what I think is going to happen with the rest of the market overall over the next 3 to 5 weeks, then yeah, I mean, this one would benefit from that probably greatly, because it does make big sizable moves, doesn't it? So yeah, I mean, but the trend hasn't started yet, so you'd have to wait I would wait for a trend to start or a signal to be forged, and the signal I'd really be waiting for would be a conversion baseline cross, which doesn't look like it's going to happen over the next few days or so. Give it 4 or 5 days and see if we get one of those. Screwed myself over with 2 bots. Started FET with Bitcoin right before the pump and lost 4k FET. Right, then started ZIL to ETH, and ETH is pumping. Do you have? Could you look at ZIL and FET? Yeah, so we just looked at ZIL. Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on your ranges, doesn't it? I think one of the problems that people have with bots is that because I use bots, and I'm going to change the way I use bots now, because I've made some really good money on there when the opportunities were very clear. Back in November, when I started, things were a lot clearer, and I had projected I basically projected an alt season. I could see an alt season was likely to take place in January, mid to late January, and I'm not saying that to say that yes, I was right. It was all based upon charts and theories and stuff. I'm not trying to say I called anything, but that was my plan. That was my game plan, right? Things were a lot clearer for a longer period of time. So I used bots in a very particular way to benefit me in the long run, in the long game, which is, make Ethereum, then make BNB. I had no idea that BNB would do what it did. So, and back then things were a lot slower, as in like ranges could be tighter. So if you can trade a tight range, you make more money because you need less grids in a smaller range, which means that you can make more money with a bot. At the moment, what's happened now is that since sort of mid to late January, alts have gone crazy, and trading alts to alts has become more and more difficult because they're all going crazy, and it's not like what it was in November. It's very different, and trading against base pairs right now is hard because, like I say, we've got Ethereum now, which looks like it wants to start a rally. BNB can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants. It's crazy now. I projected a $95 BNB, and that's been blown out the water. So I got wrecked on BNB bots, but overall, it's worked out really well. Now we have to play things differently, and I think if you're going to use things like FET, which could be a great bot against Bitcoin, you need to be able to play the range. So you all know that I'm very bullish on FET. It's one of my biggest holds, and I'm still holding on to it for dear life, for good reason. And I'll just explain for those who don't understand the reason. I used this on my Patreon to teach the Ichimoku cloud and the value of it, and I said, look, this is a perfect chart. We've got a cross above the cloud here, we've got a golden cross thereafter, we've dumped down into it, we're now diverging, the conversion baseline crossed, and then we've got the Chiku span above price action. This is one of those charts that you can use the Ichimoku cloud to trade perfectly. So now you've got a perfect entry point, you've got a perfect setup, which means that we will be given an exit point on this one. It won't tell you where the top is, but it will tell you when the trend has come to an end, and at the moment the trend hasn't come to an end. So I'm having to hold on to that, because essentially that's all part of that trading video, which is that, look, we can use this indicator as a signal. It's not just I mean, all indicators are lagging indicators to an extent. They're all based upon price, volatility, volume and time. But this one does give signals, unlike moving averages, which don't really give signals. They just give supports, resistances, and direction of trend. I'm bullish on this one until the Chiku span or this conversion baseline makes a negative cross, and then I'll get out of the trade. But so far it's held up extremely well, and since the entry point, which is around about 5.5 cents, to where we're at right now, it's gone 546% from that video that I made about how to use this. And so, you know, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't use the indicator that I said was a perfect indicator for when used appropriately, to get out at an appropriate time. So this could continue to go up. It may not. This might be the end of it. But as far as the indicator is concerned, it's not told us to get out the trade yet, and we're 5x up. So let's look at it against Bitcoin, and we'll have a think about how. What am I doing? Well, we can have a think about how a bot would work with this. So I mean the chart is still bullish, and in fact, I'm glad you've made me look at it, because what we had here is almost a get out the trade against Bitcoin, but then we didn't. We've got a second wind of divergence. We've also got a golden cross taking place here. So thank you for forcing me to look at this, because this means that a trend has then yet again begun, more or less from around here. So again, this isn't a signal, but it's a very, very good indicator of divergence, of strength of trend. So I like the fact that you've made me see this for what it is. We've got we have got plenty of room to move on all these indicators here. I mean, the RSI is high. It's been high for a long period of time. That's probably why it's so spiky, because it gets to these levels here, and you know, it doesn't know, you know, if it can go higher, but of course it can. It's cryptocurrency. I think this is going to go even higher than where it is right now. If you're going to use this as a bot trading pair, the areas are extremely high, and I would also say that if you wanted to start a bot doing this, you'd want to wait for a good entry point, because you want to get it in the middle. So I'd be looking at the way it's going right now. You could be looking at areas of about 650 sats if you're lucky, to come back down to test 650 sats if you can. Not particularly that as an entry point, but that as this moving average, this 10 exponential. Come down to test that 10, then that would be an area to start the bot up. And then if you want to play a range, if you want to get the right range, you've got to have a look at where is it capable of dumping down to on sats. This is a launch pad point. This is that. It's a 72% range that you'd want to play in, which would mean that if you want to make the most out of this bot, you'd probably want to have your grid spacing about 1% or just over 1% away from each other, because it is very volatile. You get a sell in every trade. This is a good bot pair against Bitcoin. It is. I'm sorry that you got wrecked on it, but again, it depends on the way you've set your bot up. I do have tutorials on how to use grids and stuff like that, and like I say, I've used grids in a very tight range in the past, because that's what the market wanted back then. Now it's not so much like that. Now it is a different ball game, because things are different to how they were before. Things are more volatile, things are crazier now, so you're going to have to use bigger areas, bigger trading areas. Yeah. Thumbs up, guys. You don't need to have thumbs up on this one. This is supposed to be a private stream, but I ended up opening it to the public by accident. Do you see these two pumping soon? Which two? Oh wait, I've missed out your thing. Sorry, mate. And EOS is pumping. Is EOS pumping? Right. You can have a look and see. Oh, right, I have a look to that. I see everything pumping, basically. If you got what I said at the beginning of the video, I see everything pumping, but perhaps maybe not immediately, but over the next 3 to 5 weeks we should be entering perhaps maybe a new alt season, or not. You know, this is just the way I interpret these charts. All right, I'm wrong sometimes. I'm wrong, but it looks to me like this is how it's shaping up. But a lot does depend on how traditional markets react to this stimulus bill on Monday, and you better hope that it reacts well. Oh, that's annoying. If it wasn't for that stimulus bill, which we knew, it was obvious. It wasn't obvious. It was everyone said it was going to be passed over this weekend. So you know, we won't know until Monday how things are going to react to it. So, but the general vibe, the idea, the theory is that things will react well to it, apart from the dollar, which won't, which is why everything will react well to it. So, and yeah, I think I've said it a few times why I think I'm bullish on everything, especially altcoins. Right, DAI. So this one again, this is one of those ones where it broke down below all major moving averages. This would be this looks like it's trying to form a cupping handle. So if you view it in that respect, that this is the cupping handle, then we've got a formation taking place which is beyond moving averages, which means that if we're looking for an entry point, we've reclaimed this green 50 exponential. We are below the Bollinger Band, but breaking above that should then create the last part of this formation, which should end up being pretty aggressive. Let's have a look at these. Right, turning up here, that's good. Money's coming back into it, that's good. RSI is in a good situation too. So this one, it's not immediately bullish, but the formation in itself would suggest that if you were to buy here, that you should end up winning overall, but it will be slower than some of the others. So you'll see alts popping off left, right and centre going, why did I buy DAI? But you buying this one on its chart formation, not on any other aspect of it right now. Entry point was handed to us here at $2.23 as we tested the 50 exponential as support, and it seems to have held up as of today. So the trading range is going to be a battle between this, which is where all the moving averages are, and this, which is the only one that's above us, a 12% range. And if there were to be an entry point, you know, you could try it here. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way, so none of these things I'm asking you or telling you that this is a good idea. It might not necessarily be a good idea at all. You have to balance up your own risk and make your own decisions. I'm sure you know that, but yeah, we judge this one on its formation of cupping handle, and if that is the case, then we would be looking to maybe even revisit and expand upon this zone here. But it would take a little bit of time. Because you know the handle isn't particularly well formed yet, but that's what it looks like to me. And so yeah, the previous price actions all the way up above here would be surpassed over a period of time. 61%, that's 78%, and then probably then some. But it would take more time, so you would be probably feeling a little pissed off basically as you watch all these other altcoins with better immediate setups moving, and you're stuck in this one. But if it all works out in the end, cupping handles work out pretty well, and this one would make a new all-time high overall, a brand new all-time high over time. This is another one that I traded back in the back before the thing, similar to Ravencoin. You know, I knew something was going to happen with this one. I knew it. But I couldn't be bothered to wait any longer, and I moved into others. And again, look, we're being offered an entry point here again, just like I can't remember, but we've seen a few coins like this. There's one thing here which is not concerning but a bit disappointing, which is that the conversion baseline is making a negative cross here, but we are being supported on first of all the 21 exponential, which is that skinny grey one, and now the 20 simple moving average, center of the Bollinger Band. So if there's an entry point, you could try it here. If it did break down, then we would be retesting some of these lows, so significant drops actually. 34, 46. So it's a dangerous one, but you know, the odds are in your favour when you're in this, you know, above the centre. So we are still above the centre. Redistribution style MACD cross here. Slow money flow index trickling out. If we have a look at this MACD, what do we get? I mean, the RSI. We look like we are trying to form. You know, we've got a higher low here. We've not yet got a higher high. When you've got potential downside being so great, I would be a little worried about getting involved in it. But you know, like I say, the odds are in your favour when you're in this portion of the Bollinger Band. But I mean, this has moved a hell of a lot, and yeah, I could have made that. I could have done that. I was in down here, but yeah, I could have made that. So yeah, when you have something that moves up close to 17,000%, a correction or a consolidation, you could say, of 40% is actually very conservative. It could come down more, but for the moment, the momentum still appears to be to the up when it comes to supports on the centre of the Bollinger Band, but the risk of it breaking down further is it could be severe. So the odds are in its favour still, but if the odds turn against it, it would be I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like the way it would go down a lot more. Right. I think we looked at this one before, didn't we? So on the last live stream. So yeah, I remember it. So that we can look at this in two ways. We can look at it as in that was a big move. You know, on one day alone, that was a very big move, 200. But you could also look at this as in that was an enormous retracement of 50%. So it lost 50% of that daily gain. So not many people would have. You know, some people are still very much wrecked now. But if we ignore this, which I wouldn't say it's the best thing to do, but if we were to ignore it, it's in an uptrend for the candle bodies. We've also got a conversion baseline cross here, Chiku span above price action, golden cross as well. So that would suggest continuation of this trend, which is clearly continuing as well. So that I actually do like the way that the chart looks. What's the volume on this thing? The volume's not very big. So that would suggest why we have such wicks like this. The volume, I mean, the volume is big. It's 45 Bitcoin is quite a lot, but it's not massive. It's not that big really. But the setup is actually pretty nice. Divergences are really strong here, and there's nothing to be concerned about with any of these. And actually, when we look at the MACD, we're crossing into and over the 0 point in a nice way. So actually, I think this one could do pretty well. So I do like it, despite the fact that this. I don't know why that happened. You'll have to shed some light onto that if you know more than me. Did something happen with Poly? Because if it did, it would explain that. But the trend itself, if we ignore the wick on its own, the trend and the setup and the cross and the itchy cloud is pretty good. What's my opinion on alts performance during bear markets? Even if it was a really strong fundamental, well, it'd have to be a pretty strong fundamental, wouldn't it? Because look at it like this: it would have to be curing cancer or something. I mean, everything is dictated by. It would, any pump that came out of an altcoin in a bear market would be to do with something unbelievably strong fundamentals. Do you know what I mean? It would have to be so big, and then what I would expect to see with it is that, you know, if a development came out which caused an initial pump, it would have a pump, but if it was a bear market, it would tail off. Things generally aren't going to trend higher in a bear market. So I wouldn't be particularly fond of trading anything for a prolonged period of time in a bear market. So fundamentals are one thing, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the way it goes. I mean, look at it like this, right? You've got the Nasdaq, right? That's the 100 tech sector, of America. It's all lumped in together. There's going to be some big ones in there, and they're all going to be big. There'll be some absolute mega giants in there, and if the mega giants come down, the whole thing comes down, and by default they all come down. It doesn't mean that in amongst the Nasdaq there will be some of these companies that are still trending up, but overall it's all coming down. So when a sector comes down, it's better to trade it as a whole and think about it as a whole. So if Bitcoin goes down and is in a bear market, an actual bear market, I would be very wary about trading anything at all, because it's going to be brought down by the big one. Right. You should allow some freebies sometimes and let people know the Patreon is. Yeah, well, I did actually. The last one I did was a freebie. But yeah, I think I should do one freebie a month. Yeah. Good evening, 30k. Oh, here we go. I love EOS, but blah blah blah. Hello, EOS. Right, that's EOS with a question mark, so I think it's only fair that we treat it as a question. So, pumping a little bit. At the end of the day, I've made enough videos on EOS for you to, I suppose, just go back and have a look. But my overall vibe is we're back in the accumulation zone, which is nice and boring. Not a nice place for it to be. But considering we're in this zone, we're going to find ourselves in this resistance level, which is between it's about $3.90. Break it above $3.90. Yeah, it'll pop up again and it'll be up here before you know it. But until we break that resistance, then that's the vibe we're in. It looks to me like it's going to take maybe best part of next week for it to be able to do that. But yeah, I think it will do that. And if you watch my videos on EOS, I am bullish on it overall, because we have made a higher high basically here. We are above the cloud basically here. We've got a conversion baseline above the cloud here. So this means that it's hard for people to see this, and I get a lot of criticism for it. But this will trend higher over the year. But it's going to be a slow burner. It's not. And I've always said this. I'm not saying EOS is the best thing in the world. It's not. But the chart, to me, speaks that it tells me that actually it's reversing a trend, and something that's been downtrending for a long period of time is going to take a little bit of time to pick up steam. But it will do it. It will honestly do it. But it's not going to be the best thing you've ever seen in your life. But it is going to do it. That's all I have to say about it, really. I make enough videos on it, mainly because now I suppose I mean it's a chart that I traded, but since I've been making these videos on it, people love them. They've become my most popular videos. But I tend not to say things about things just for views. I'll only say things if there's something worth saying. I'm not here really particularly to chase views, but they do get a lot of views, I have to say. Right, any more requests? What do you think about BTR? Well, I've never heard of that one, to be honest with you. BTR? Well, I mean, I've got nothing to say about it, unfortunately. Got a notification, so I'm gate crashing. Gate crasher. Alright, well, you're here now, so what do you want me to look at? INJ. Alright, that's fine. This is, from what I understand, one of those super bullish charts. Yes, it is. Well, that is a weekly, so I suppose I can't really look at it. Right, so this is one of those ones where it's, again, like trying to catch a knife. It's been super bullish for a long period of time, and now it's feeling the pressure of that. Trend ended officially here, and even though we're being supported on the last level of resistance, this chart is so young it doesn't even have a 200 exponential. If you wanted to try an entry point here, you could, but if it failed, it could fail miserably. Let's have a look at this. So that's a bit steeper than your average MACD, which makes me a little more worried about it. This doesn't look too much like a redistribution of people taking profit now. This looks like it could end up turning nasty if the market turned nasty. So this one, you know, if you wanted to try an entry here, you could, and you know, by doing that, you could have a stop loss just a little bit further down. I would personally think that, you know, you could try it. It has respected these at the moment, but the day that it closes beneath this moving average would be the day that it really does start to downtrend. Again, you know, the moving averages are all facing down quite steeply, and we're being rejected quite clearly from the center of the Bollinger Band too. So the trading range at this moment in time would be between the 50 and the 20, offering a potential 17% move before the next rejection. On the off chance it broke above there, it's still not going to be bullish until this has gone horizontal or turned up. But I think I would rather leave this one alone when we do have other altcoins out there that are a bit more that I'd be a bit more confident with. But you know, when something looks like this, you know, it's difficult for me to give any genuine opinion on it, because the chart isn't old enough for it to have enough price action and history and time to mature for these moving averages. They do work, they clearly doing their job, but even the Green 50 exponential only came into existence in December. It's not an old enough chart to give accurate reads on it. But it could bounce from here if the market decides it wants to continue up, and yeah, it could end up being pretty good. But I wouldn't do it myself. Right, not able to unstack my EOS for some. I don't know about any of that kind of thing, I'm afraid. I just trade these coins, to be honest. I don't do much more than that. Easy to Ethereum. Right, this probably isn't as relevant anymore as it used to be. Its only trading pair. I imagine if Ethereum's going to rally, it's going to make this chart go down, perhaps. So I'll give it you for what it's worth. It's I mean, it's still in an uptrend. It's definitely still in an uptrend. I got caught short on this one. This is my very first successful bot that I had on this one, until Ethereum rallied, and this is where I decided to not trade it anymore against bots anyway. But you know, this is a deceptive looking chart. Both assets have gone up in value massively at this point. So even though we've only come back up to this zone here, they've both gone up massively. Trading this chart on its own, I mean, if we are looking at a potential Ethereum bounce here, I would be hesitant to do it again. I've been hesitant ever since Ethereum rallied, but the chart looks okay, doesn't it? I mean, if you treat it for what it's worth, it's okay. It's still a very young chart as well, so it doesn't give a great deal of insight as to where it's going to continue to go. I mean, it's bullish until proven otherwise, isn't it? But if Ethereum rallies, this chart breaks down, and if you're looking to do it as a bot pair, we have to look at the lower term time frames. It's still clearly volatile, breaking down a little bit here. I'm not really able to give you a potential. Can't really give you an opinion on it. I don't want to mislead you into thinking that it's good or bad. Polygon, I think we've already looked at that. SXP. Right, we're whizzing through these tonight, aren't we? Doing quite well. Right, so SXP to. So this is another one of those ones where it's considered, in my opinion, squeaky bum time. It's make or break. If we look at the way that it's behaved, it's sold off significantly from this top here, and we've got the end of the trend over here. But we still have a diverging golden cross, which is good. This is pretty steep, though. I have to say, this is pretty steep, and if it doesn't turn up soon, it could end up being a deeper sell-off. But it's in a better position than some of these other alts that are still on the Green 50 exponential. So I'm holding a fair bit of this still, and I'm under the impression that it is going to continue to go up. I think a lot of this is super shakeout stuff. because it's been so volatile in the past and had such a large sell-off. I think people are scared of it this time round. Now, what I need to put out there is that this shouldn't have ever happened. This is one of those FOMO events that you see that basically gets sold into hard. I bought some back down here and sold probably around here. I didn't ride it all the way to the top because I knew what was likely to happen. It's going to go down, and it certainly did do that. Now what we can do for the first time is trade it on its chart alone, and the chart is, to me, still looking good, to be honest with you. It's still looking good despite this. If we can reclaim the centre of the Bollinger Band, which isn't that far away now, we're closer to that than we are to this, then the uptrend will then again begin. But at the moment it's not beginning that uptrend particularly well on the daily. We need this we need to see this histogram tick back up to the opposing side, and it's not gone positive yet. Let's move to a 4-hourly to see if there's any insight into it on the 4-hourly. So we're in this cloud here, so over the next few days perhaps we might begin to see something as this cloud goes green. A couple of days from here we will have the opportunity to have the freedom to run, I suppose, a bit better. Redistribution again after this last move that we had here, about to cross into the 0 point here. So again, it's not really very clear at this moment in time. We'd have to allow it a few more days to mature. No trading within the cloud is always a rule. But we avoided the death cross so far on the 4-hourly, so actually even on the lower term time frames it's still holding up quite well. So I'm not particularly bearish on it. I'm kind of almost neutral at this point. We need a bit more time for it to mature, but I'm not megally bearish, nor am I immediately bullish on it. Give it the rest of next week to mature a little bit more, and then if we can come back with a clearer indication of where it's going, basically reclaiming the centre of the Bollinger Band, getting above $2.50 and supported above $2.50, then it should easily get continuation back up to at least $3.10 and maybe $3.40 or 50. But those are yet to be seen. We've got to give it more time to mature. Alright, what's this one? DNT. Almost exactly the same vibe as what we've just seen with SXP, so it will need a bit more time, definitely. We are in the bearish portion and below the centre of the Bollinger Band, having a battle here. So this is the battle here between all these moving averages here. We've not really come down to test the lower band, nor have we touched the 50 exponential, so it's trying its hardest to hold up here. The volume looks pretty low on this one in general. Yeah, it's quite low, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you can't put a great deal in. You can't play this one with mega bucks. You'd have a liquidity problem at this point, but if the volume picked up, it'd be different. The green clouds here, a lot of these, like I say, I'm basing my theory upon this chart here, which looks like that Ethereum wants to bounce over the next 3 to 5 weeks, create another higher high on the sats, and that's going to carry altcoins with it. So by saying that, it is reasonable to assume that we are going to have to wait for some of these other lower alts to mature a little bit as Ethereum pushes the market in the favor of alts, which at the moment it's still on dancing on this line. Normally I would say let's hedge into Bitcoin here, we're going to bounce, but the way it looks at the moment, I think it's going to break down. So this, again, with everything else, I suppose is a matter of waiting for it to reclaim the center of the Bollinger Band and then start an uptrend. Buying things down here is basically knife catching time. We'll be getting ahead of ourselves. I think that one of the I've got probably at this point about 35% of my portfolio in Tether still, not buying hardly any of these dips. I bought a few little pieces here and there, but generally speaking I like to buy in an uptrend and with a degree of certainty that things are going to continue. This is not in an uptrend at the moment, so give it the rest of the week, next week, to see where it wants to go. And if as soon as it reclaims this and is proven to be supported above it, then we might be looking at the start of a new uptrend. Let's quickly look at the 4-hourly. Again, no uptrend particularly well formed on the 4-hourly. Very much like SXP though, avoided the death cross at the moment, and and it looks like it wants to have an uptick on the itchy cloud, which could be okay, but it's only 4 hourly, so yeah, it's going to need more time to mature. Right, Nano. So one of my mates trades this one, and he's been in it for several years actually, and he's very happy at the moment. So trend has come to an end here officially, but that doesn't mean that it's over. It could always go higher, but at the moment a new uptrend is yet to begin. Very much like I would said about the last few coins, time to mature on this one. Money flow index, pretty low read there actually, lowest read since this this whole bull wave has taken place. It could always go lower, and that's a steep descending MACD, which could always bring it down lower if the market decides that it's not going to go up. But if it is going to go down, then this will go down with it, probably quite heavily. But at the moment, yeah, it's holding up okay against the odds. Again, it's going to need time to mature. We are in the bearish portion of the Bollinger Band, which would suggest that we're going to stay here until we break above it, and then when we break above it we can talk about uptrends. But there's no signals here to say that there's an uptrend. There's only a signal to say that the last uptrend has effectively finished. But just to put that into perspective, let's just show you something on Bitcoin, right? When we get those Ichimoku clouds conversion baseline crosses to the negative, so we had one back down here, this is positive, and it went all the way up, and then we got one here saying, alright guys, the trend is finished. It's not a sell signal as in like let's short this into the ground. It's not that. It's to say, alright, if you got in appropriately wherever the cross was, around here somewhere, now it's time for you to get out, and we'll wait for another cross to the up. So this corresponds to this candle, and we only came down a further 11%. And then what happened? It went back up again, and then we got a cross here, and the cross took place on this candle body here, and it went up, you know, here, another 59%. It's since crossed here to the negative. So let's measure the cross to cross to this candle body. At the lowest point, 30%, you would have gained, to the highest point, you would have gained 40%. So just because we got a cross to say the trend has ended doesn't mean that we're not going to get a positive cross at some point in the next 1 or 2 weeks to say that everything's okay, don't worry, we're fine, we're good to go, a new uptrend has begun. But for the moment, you're going to have to wait a little while for it to mature, I think. XRP to the moon, that's a good statement there. Hi Mr. Gemma, I'm good, thank you. Can you discuss your plan to scale out of FET? Well, I mean, yeah, the appropriate thing to do in any kind of uptrend it would be to scale out, but for me personally, I'm trading it on the back of an Ichimoku cloud conversion baseline cross coupled with a golden cross. I would consider that to be a perfect signal in itself, and so I'm waiting for the signal to get out, which would be based upon the Ichimoku cloud. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking profits. That's just the way I'm trading that particular chart. I would pretty much take profits and scale out on the way up of any other chart formation, just not that one. So that's just how I'm trading it. I got in on the back of a signal and an indicator. I'm going to get out on the back of that indicator, and at the moment it's working out quite well, not scaling out of that one at all, which is something I would normally do, but on that one I haven't, and so far I'm up like 5x. It could obviously come crashing straight back down, and that's the risk I've chosen to take. But I've chosen to get in on it through an indicator, through signals, and I will choose to get out of it appropriately if it tells me that that signal has come to an end. Just like what we've just seen there, we've just discussed what it looks like when a trend comes to an end. We get out on that. Right. Not much data on Reef. We look at Reef every time here, and so I've chosen that the best way to look at it is on the lower term time frames, and I think we found, yeah, this is the last time we looked at it here, and we revisited it recently. So on the 4 hourly, I think we found that we were in a descending channel. Descending channels often break to the up, so this is what I think is what I must have said. I said, look, this is a descending channel. More likely than often we will break out of this. So you know, buying in at the bottom of the channel, you know, you could end up breaking out of it, you could end up coming back down, blah 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 blah. It's broken out, so it's broken out of that channel. So what's it doing now? It's probably going to start a new uptrend. It's already started, I would expect. So this one, you know, it does look okay on, you know, on the 4 hourly. I'm not going to say it's the greatest thing on the 4 hourly, but it did break out of there. Let's have a look at these. So this is turning down. and actually the RSI is not looking very good, nor is the money flow index. But trading it on the 4 hourly is how I'd go about doing it. Since we've broken down and been rejected from it here, it does look like it wants to revisit some of these lower zones, 3.6 cents. So yeah, I mean, you got your move from this formation here. Expecting more from it at this level? No, but trying to catch it at the moving averages? Yeah, why not? Why not? I'm not a fan of these small charts, to be honest with you. So again, I can't give you a great deal of, and because they carry more risk. I mean, these trends, they often look really good when you see them. You go, oh, this is a good trend, man. Oh yeah, it's going up, it's going up. But then it just doesn't. And the reason it continues to go down is because people are uncertain about, where can it go down to. But I mean, on the daily here, we are above the centre of the Bollinger Band. We are being supported on here. What is that level there? 3.6 cents. Well, yeah, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt on the daily that it might be beginning an uptrend again. And if you wanted to try and catch a perfect entry point, not that it would be perfect, but a more appropriate one, you'd judge it on the 4 hourly, see if we can come down to test this. And it is 3.6 cents. So yeah, the 4 hourly and the daily both have a bit of confluence there on the entry point. Cosmos, is that just Cos? I think, is it? Not Cods, Cos. Yeah, that's just one of the better ones on the daily, definitely. We've already reclaimed the centre of the Bollinger Band here. It's looking pretty good. Yeah, bullish on this one, I'd say. And over if we can remain above here, over the next at some point next week, we'll have a conversion baseline cross there as well. We've got a golden cross back down here. So this one could end up being one of the better ones. Yeah, so money flow index peaking a little bit here, but really not peaking to the extent that you'd see and generally when something's gone bullish again. Yeah, I think this one, again, it's going to take a bit of time to mature. Probably get another entry point at the centre of the Bollinger Band, a final retest, maybe a few of them, to be honest. But I think this one's going to go into a more significant uptrend than a lot of the ones that we've already looked at already this evening. So I like it, to be honest with you. But yeah, wait for your entry point, obviously. But yeah, this is a good one. We say now then. Yeah, we do say now then. And DNT, we've looked at that. Can look at XRP. Come on. Let's have a look at it, shall we? That's how's she doing. How's she doing? Well, she's reclaimed this support at least, and held there yesterday. Still holding there today. It's still in the bearish area of the Bollinger Band, and the trend came to an end here. But I think I've said this a few times now. I'm bullish on XRP on the very long term. I've studied the market cycle. The market cycle says that this one will do well by the end of the year. The problem is that we had this deep, much deeper correction than was required. If it wasn't for SEC, we would have ended up coming down to the 200 exponential anyway. We wouldn't have broken down below it, and SEC did that to it. And then unfortunately, well, it depends how you choose to view it, what happened here was the pump group that brought it all up, and basically what it's done is it's messed the chart up. It's messed it up. But throughout that, at least, even with SEC FUD, we respected the accumulation zone, the top of the accumulation zone from back in the original accumulation zone when we came out of consolidation. This was the accumulation zone. We respected that on the original dump. Then when we had a deeper correction, we respected the bottom of it here. So even within all of that madness, the chart still had relevance. And even after the pump, and the dump, it more or less respected these zones of support and resistance, which is what we're still trying to do now. So being above here, I'll give it, I'll be happy for it. I like XRP, I'll be happy for it. But the chart is a fine mess because it's been tampered with by both retailers and the powers that be. So it's made it a lot less clear. I still stand by my original overall market cycle video that I made probably about a year ago now, which is that we don't expect to see a great deal of volatility or enormous madness from XRP on the technical basis alone until after May, which we are getting towards now. and that's when I would, regardless of where we are on this chart, I would probably start hedging back into it at that point, because I'm pretty confident that after May it will have the freedom to really start to make some big moves. I'm not saying it's going to happen in May, I'm just saying after May, that's when the latter part of the market cycle picks up pace. And so after May, gearing up towards the end of the year, I would want to have a reasonable part of my portfolio in XRP, because the market cycle suggests that by May, towards the end of the year, there will be some significant moves. I'm not going to say it's not going to do 100 million X, but it could reach $4, $5, maybe more. But $4 would be my target, but I'm always conservative with my price targets. Like I say, I always look at the lower end, because I'm not a moon boy. But $4 is reasonable to me to think that that's where it'll achieve at the end of the year. But it could achieve a hell of a lot more than that. We just don't know. But like I say, my original vibe is what I've always said, and I stick to it. And it's not based upon anything other than the chart. Fundamentals are a completely different ballgame altogether, and that could change the direction of the chart completely. But the technicals on the chart suggests that is the deal with XRP, and a few people recognise or understand that. Right, so this one, just looking at it here, I don't really like it, to be honest with you. 59% retracement. At the moment, being rejected from most moving averages. We're kind of dancing around here, getting rejected again from the 21 exponential moving average. Alright, money flow index is finding a relatively low. They're very oversold at these zones, so perhaps this could be the bottom. This could have been the bottom. It's going to take time, I guess, for this one to mature. It looks nasty, in all fairness. It does look nasty to me. But we've seen worse this evening. We've definitely seen worse. Again, there's no uptrend here. You're catching a knife. Even at this point, it's catching a knife, because we don't know if the market, how it's going to really react. No one really knows. That's why I gave that big long speech at the beginning of I'm going to choose to look at these charts through my overall theory that alts and the market is actually going to be okay, and we'll give it 3 to 5 weeks for it to perhaps maybe come to reaching a peak, and we'll reassess at that point there, based upon Ethereum and the Bitcoin dominance chart. So, because I started by saying that, and that's my overall theory, we'll look at this as a bullish chart. As in, like, this is the bottom. So if we class this as the bottom and we look at this MACD, it is slowly turning up and wanting to go above the 0 point. The money flow index is not bullish yet at all. It's still volume and money is trickling out of this still at this level. So it is definitely a knife catching event. I wouldn't go in on this one because of what I've just said. What's the volume on this one overall? It's not too high, not too low either. I just don't really fancy it, to be honest with you. There's better charts out there to trade. Loving the videos. What do you think of Bake to BNB and Ocean? I'll tell you what, I'm not going to really be able to look at BNB charts. I just don't think there's any point in me trying to. There's just not any point in me trying to talk about it. What we will do after this, we'll look at BNB in general, and that'll help us understand it. Right, so Ocean's really good. Those who watch the channel know that I love Ocean, and look what looks like it wants to happen, so long as we hold this kind of level. Look, this is a good chart because it's already recovered to a really good extent. It's reaching the top of the Bollinger Band here already, amongst all these other ones that are all the way back down here still. So this one is pretty good, right? It's really good. And it's got plenty of room to move on the oscillators also. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? So yeah, I like it. It's all the time. It's going to come back down, no doubt. But that's fine. If we can hold above the 200, the center of this Bollinger Band, we're going to get this blue cross this red. That's a conversion baseline cross above the cloud, and that's a bullish sign. We also traded this one on the back of the weekly, which had this W formation, and I said, look, this chart for me, this token for me, is about buying and holding. This is a fundamental purchase. This is like buying and holding a stock for me. But then when we finally got this formation on the weekly, I said, look, how this normally plays out, these W formations, they normally play out with a big move up. Also had a big move down, by the way, but we've recovered pretty well. It's bullish. It's a bullish chart. It's a bullish coin, and for me, I buy it, and I only buy it, and I will be selling it when the time is right. I don't plan on trading it. I just plan on buying it, and I will sell it again when the time is right. It's a fundamental coin for me, but it's proven to work out very well, and fair play to it. I do love it. Right, let's have a look at BNB then, just for those people who want to trade against BNB, probably against it for bot reasons. This is what makes me feel a little nervous about it. It's a really bullish chart, right? It's a very bullish chart, and even though at this very moment in time we are below the center of the Bollinger Band, if it decides that it wants to rally from here. Look, breaking down below the center of the Bollinger Band isn't the be-all and end-all with crypto. A lot of people change their Bollinger Bands to work on exponentials, which is why I have this 21 exponential just below it here. This is essentially the second, it's like the shadow, I would say, of a Bollinger Band. If the Bollinger Band breaks down, I'll give it this last option here, which is the 21 exponential. And if it bounces from there, fair enough. And we could begin another rally on this one. So that's what makes me nervous about charting these things against BNB, because I loved BNB. I made loads of BNB with my bots, and it works until it doesn't, and it got to the point where it was just too difficult to trade anything against it because it was just too bullish. It's already done it once. It could easily do it again. Binance is they're a superpower, aren't they, in cryptocurrency? They've got the Binance Smart Chain as well. They've got a lot of things going for them at the moment. They're basically sucking money out of the system, and it's going to go in one place. It's going to go into the Binance coin, and I don't want to bet against it. So I'm happy just to hold my Binance coin and not trade against it anymore. I just don't want to take that risk. So it's not particularly bullish at this moment in time, but if it does go bullish again, it'll go aggressive, and it could bounce at any moment, given what we've said about altcoins and my overall theory over the next 5 weeks. What's this? So, is there a signal to get out of SXP? No, there wasn't. This is why I scaled out of it. I'm still in it to a large extent. I've got 50% of how much ever it is that I've got. I scaled out of it. But because I bought down at the beginning of the uptrend, it would have to retrace all the way below $1 for me to even be losing out. But I did scale out of it. That was born out of a different type of trade, a trade of something that was beginning a clear uptrend. Now that we've got a bullish setup with the moving averages, I would expect the trend to continue over time. So I'm happy to keep that 50% riding, because it could easily reach $5 or more, which it could. And there's fundamental reasons for it to even reach higher than that. But at the same time, no, there was no signal on that one to get out of the trade. You're talking about the Ichimoku cloud. If you remember the Patreon, you go to watch my video about the Ichi clouds, and then you'll understand it. It's the only indicator that I would use to give me an exit signal, potentially. It's the only indicator that I would use to trust it on telling me that it's time to get out, because that's what it's designed to do, basically. Get in here, get out there. So long as you meet all the points of confirmation on the entry point, you can use the points of confirmation on the exit point. Anyway, there's a tutorial video for you to watch if you are a member of the Patreon, and it hopefully explains it. I appreciate my communication skills are not the greatest. Right, this one is picking up, and it's going to test here, and will likely be rejected on the first pass, but it's doing better than most. It's already started at a potential uptrend here. Money flow index peaked at a low point here, and now it's picking up. Same with the RSI, oversold here, now it's picking up. And if we can just make this a bit more convincing, this MACD, then yeah, this one will begin a new uptrend. But the uptrend has got no Ichi Cloud conversion baseline signal on it, and it probably wouldn't for quite a while actually. It's going to take a while for that blue to touch that green. Plus the Chiku span is in the price action, so you couldn't trade it on the back of that. What you would trade this one on is the fact that we reclaim this, and then we need this to start to face up again, because that's pretty steep. That would take a little while. That's going to take a week or two once we've reclaimed it to face up. And one thing I always say about people who don't use moving averages or are new to it, if you imagine them with a little arrow on it pointing to the direction it wants to go in, and this is either a support or resistance. This currently wants to go down like this, which means that at the moment we're below it, so it will be a resistance, and the resistance is going to be going lower and lower and lower, which means that if it continues to be rejected from it, our resistance is going to get lower and lower and lower. If we break above it, that's great, and it could then be a support, but the support will take a bit of time before it starts to snake up again. So that means that we are in the bullish section here, but unfortunately our support goes lower over time until we've been above it for a prolonged period of time. It's only a 20 moving average, so it would probably take the best part of a week for it to go horizontal and back up again, but the support that we'll be using is unfortunately going down every day. So it's not, it is what it is. None of these things that we're looking at really are in an uptrend at the moment, because most of the moving averages are still facing down and below where they're supposed to be. The 10 exponential here is supposed to be above the 20. 10 is supposed to be above 20, and so on and so on and so on. At the moment they're not. So the uptrend hasn't yet begun, but it's a nice start. It does look good. It's a good start. But this one could easily recover. But there's a lot of things I'd like to see before I would enter a trade on this one. But it's better than a lot of these ones that we've looked at. But we also fell a lot further than a lot of these others. So sorry, I'm getting text after text after text here. BNT. Tell you what we'll do. We'll do another 15 minutes. Right. So this one's this one doesn't care, does it? This one really doesn't care. This one's bullish as. So bursting outside of the Bollinger Band is never an entry point, but the fact that we're doing it in anyway is a pretty good thing to see. Amongst all these coins that we've been looking at, where we're like, we have to wait for it to mature. This one's not cared about any of that. Even in its worst hour, it came to the center of the Bollinger Band and went straight back up again. So this one is good to see, something like this. Let's have a look at these moving averages. Nothing to be concerned of about this at all. This one looks like it wants to continue with an aggressive uptrend. So keep your eye on it. Wait for some form of entry point, which to me would be this 10 exponential as standard procedure when getting into a trade. So that's all I would say. I'd say it's bullish, and it's going to continue to be bullish, but I would want to get in on this with a decent entry point. When did this uptrend start? Conversion baseline cross over here, down here. So this Ichimoku cloud is still in play. So this is one of those ones that you could, obviously you'd feel a lot more comfortable trading it if you traded it on the entry point down here, because wherever the get out signal would be, you'd almost certainly still be in profit. But you want, if you wanted to get out of this trade, if you've been in it all this time, or you're looking for a moment where the trend has come to an end, you wait for this Chiku span to touch the price action. That would touch any of this, or this blue here to touch this red, to make a negative cross, and then you get out of the trade. So this one its uptrend is still in play, clearly, and it's bullish until further notice. But don't buy anything when it's poking outside of a Bollinger Band on the daily, because it will want to get drawn back in again. Hope you're doing well, amigo. I'm doing alright. Thanks for the stream. No worries, mate. It was an accident. I don't know if you're a Patreon member, but if you're not, maybe consider it. We do this twice a week, £7.50 a month, and this is what you get. Hi, do you have any idea of what causes the mini dump at 12 o'clock today? No. I don't think about those things like that, to be honest. I can understand why things dump at midnight, because it's a candle close, and candle closures are important, but not 12 midday. XVS. Reckon it's dead? Well, don't know. Well, I mean, it's dramatic, isn't it? It's dramatic because it moved so crazy. I very much doubt it's dead, but I would be hesitant on getting involved in it. Now, I think when people see something like this, they go, "Wow, if only," and it's did all that. That's a 2,800% move. And now look what's happening to it. It's dying. Well, I mean, let's put it in context. It did a 2,800% move. A consolidation from something like that will be significant. Of course it will. But if we choose to look at it on the chart alone, we are very much like all these other altcoins that we see. We're broken down beneath the center of the Bollinger Band. The trend came to an end, and we're being rejected from the 10 exponential, which is all facing down, which isn't very nice to see. But what I would also say is that if we imagine that 10 exponential, this moving average here, is facing down to this extent, and we appear to be supported on this, or thereabouts, on this green 50 exponential, which is kind of moving around like this, it means that we're forming a wedge formation, aren't we? And we trade wedge formations, don't we, for breakouts or breakdowns. So if we break down from here, then it might be dead, but if we break out from here, then it could be okay. And so that's how I would choose to view it. I wouldn't say it's dead. It's just like all the other altcoins. How far can it go from here? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's done pretty well since it was down here. I remember someone on my channel who always comes into the channel sporadically and drops us a fountain of knowledge about something, fundamental basis, like not charts or anything like that. It just comes in and he'll just say very casually, "Let's go to the moon, guys." He's always right, and he was right about this one when it was all the way down at $1. And I mean, that guy, he must be laughing. He's got to be a whale by now in so many things, because he does this all the time. But yeah, fundamentally I couldn't tell you, but on the basis of this chart alone, that's how I choose to view it. I wouldn't say it's dead. I'd say it's consolidating after an enormous run. Don't they have swipe swap? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. What is that? What is that though? Is it going to do anything? You'd hope so. I mean, it does burn tokens, doesn't it? So, do you think BTC will retest 42 short term? Yeah, it could do. Yeah. Now I'm not saying the correction's over for Bitcoin. Definitely not. If you look at it in the posture of the way that the chart is, the bears have got the upper hand, because we're in the bottom area of the Bollinger Band. So, and what's the bottom area? 43. Where's the 50 exponent? Where's the 50 simple? 42.5. No. And it wouldn't concern me a great deal either, because during this downtrend, alts rallied. So if my theory is correct, that Ethereum rallies from here, Bitcoin can do what it wants, and Ethereum should lead the way for this Bitcoin dominance to finally break down from this zone. So Bitcoin can do what it wants actually at this point. I don't really particularly care about it. I've already covered SXP, mate. Sorry about that. Have a look at COT. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a few more. I'll do 3 more after this, and then I'm going to go. But if you like what you see and you're not already a member, Patreon, £7.50 a month, absolute bargain. So this is bullish still, definitely bullish. So this is one of the better ones, definitely, definitely bullish. Spinning top here, a bit more of a thing. You say, I think we'll be pretty confident in saying that we will test this 10 exponential again. If you're looking to get into an entry point up here, currently that's around 22.5 cents. Everything here there's nothing to be concerned on any of these oscillators at all. So I'll be confident enough in saying that this is going to continue with its bullish trend until it drops out the sky. Obviously, it's very wicky around here, very wicky indeed. So it can only go up as far as it goes up, but there's nothing I would say to be concerned of particularly at this point now. And if you wanted to try and ride an uptrend on this one, you get in at here. If that fails, you get in here. You stagger it, obviously. You don't go all in on anything ever. But you could, your first opportunity would be the 10 exponential. If that fails, then you'd try it around here. We've got the 22 exponential and the 20 moving average all at the same place. That should offer a decent support if this one breaks down, and the uptrend is pretty good. We've got moving averages in the absolute appropriate places. So yeah, I like it. QNT, I think we did that one already. Ocean, yeah, we've done that one as well. What else have we got? Thanks for your time on the TA Jammer, much appreciated. No problem, mate. H-bar, okay, let's have a look at that. Right, okay, so it's trying again, isn't it? It's trying. So this is one of the better ones, as you can see. We broke down significantly. Nasty, squeaky bum time. I bet the RSI was pretty oversold. It wasn't actually. It wasn't. It wasn't oversold. So yeah, we've recovered very, very well from here, and peaked outside of the Bollinger Band, sucked back in because no one likes being outside of a Bollinger Band. But since then, as of today, more or less 10 exponential. Probably going to continue with an uptrend. Divergences across the board, almost in the perfect position, getting ready, I'd say, for a continuation of an uptrend if the market permits that kind of behaviour. Yeah, I quite like it. I think it's quite good, to be honest with you. We've got conversion baseline cross here on the Ichimoku cloud with the GQ span above the price action. Cloud is green. Yeah, I think it could continue with this uptrend. I quite like the look of that one. After sneaking in the back door, after seeing the live stream, I'm going to sign up to Patreon, and that's what we like to hear. Maybe I will do these freebies once every now and then. Like I say, £7.50. I don't know what country you're from, but that's really, that's a bargain. That's an absolute bargain. LSK. So it's trying. So this skinny little grey one. 22, sorry, I don't know why I said that. 21 exponential moving average, which is, like I say, it acts as the shadow. I use it as a shadow of the center of the Bollinger Band. So yes, we are in the bearish portion of there, but we are being supported on the 21. So it wants to recover from here, and we do have divergences on most moving averages, but it may still break down. But it's trying hard. Let's have a look at these. So that's still in redistribution phase, unfortunately, and the money flow is coming out of here. So we do have higher highs and higher lows forming on the RSI. So it's a bit of a 50-50 at the moment. I mean, given my theory of the market situation right now, I would still put the odds in the favour of this ending up with a breakout. What's the volume on this thing? Quite it's 3 million is okay, I suppose, but that can go down quite quickly, couldn't it? And with the way that the money flow index is trickling down, it could continue to go down every day to the point where it's not going to go down like ridiculous. It was very, very unrealistic to think that with a setup like this it will go down below 1 million, but it could. So yeah, I mean, I would keep our eye on this one. What are these moves anyway? They're kind of difficult to gauge. So there was a big move, and the consolidation so far has been to where we are right now, 32%. So yeah, I mean, it's just like everything else. It's going to have it's going to need a bit of time to mature to give us a bit more of an understanding of whether this is going to have a continuation. We do have a conversion baseline cross to the negative here, which unfortunately, until that makes an uptrend, an uptick, which wouldn't be anytime soon, is this trend has come to an end. So it's a one to sit and wait and watch, see if we can reclaim the center and then move on from there. At the moment, it does look like it's redistributing, and money is leaving the asset. As you can see, it's been leaving since all the way back down here. So volume is going a lot lower. So yeah, I would wait and leave it. At the moment, the trading range is very small, and it could go either way. But I still don't think anything is. I don't think it's going to drop out of the sky and die a gruesome death. I just don't see it as anything to get in now. When we've seen already this evening some decent setups, haven't we? So. Oh, and someone else is signing up, and you're from Essex. Well, I've got none of my immediate family here in Essex, but I met the missus in Walthamstow, and they all live down sort of Redbridge way. I know Essex reasonably well, Basildon, Southend, Clacton. In fact, I go to Clacton on my summer holidays. My in-laws got a caravan down there, so I know Essex. I know Essex very well. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there, but thank you for all tuning in, and those who are going to be new to the Patreon, I'll welcome you in with open arms, and I'll see you every week, twice a week. And there are some training videos on there, and there will be more over time. It's just about me getting the time to create them. I have made the ones which I feel are the most useful, the ones that I use most frequently, but I will be adding more there for you to see. But yeah, the lower tier is £7.50. There are upper tiers if you really want to pick up your learning, but I don't really promote those. That's for people who see it and discover it and want it. But £7.50 a month, this live stream business, you know, if you get value from it, then good. And if you leave, I really don't mind. It's yeah, you know, it's your money, your time, you're the boss. But if you want to join up, there's a link in the description of this video. Anyway, I will leave it with you there, but thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice evening, and take it easy, everybody.